The main points of Chapter 1 in The 48 Laws of Power can be summarized as follows. 1. Maintaining a low profile is important in any power dynamic to avoid drawing too much attention and being seen as a threat to those in power. 2. To maintain a low profile, one should avoid self-promotion and present themselves as an ally, rather than a rival, to those in power. A humble and unassuming demeanor is also key. 3. Outshining the master is dangerous as it can be perceived as challenging or undermining those in power and lead to consequences such as loss of power and status. It is important to be mindful of the motivations and perceptions of others in any power dynamic. The first point of Chapter 1 in The 48 Laws of Power is about the importance of maintaining a low profile. Keeping a low profile means avoiding drawing too much attention to oneself, as this can be seen as a threat to those in power. By remaining inconspicuous, one can avoid being perceived as a challenge or a rival, and instead present themselves as an ally. The second point of Chapter 1 in The 48 Laws of Power highlights the importance of avoiding self-promotion and presenting oneself as an ally, rather than a rival, to those in power. This can be achieved by maintaining a humble and unassuming demeanor and avoiding actions or behaviors that draw attention to oneself. By presenting oneself in this manner, one can avoid arousing suspicion or resentment from those in power. The third point of Chapter 1 in The 48 Laws of Power emphasizes the importance of being aware of one's surroundings and observing the behavior of others. This requires paying attention to subtle details and cues, such as body language and tone of voice, in order to better understand the dynamics of any given situation. By being attentive to these details, one can gain a deeper understanding of the power dynamics at play and position themselves in a more advantageous manner. Chapter 2 of The 48 Laws of Power focuses on the idea that one should never completely trust their friends, as even the closest of relationships can turn hostile. The law emphasizes the need for caution when forming alliances and the importance of being aware of one's own interests and potential threats that in a world where power is constantly shifting. It is critical to be aware of the motives and weaknesses of those around you. This includes being mindful of the information you share and being prepared for the possibility of betrayal. Trust is a valuable commodity, but it must be earned and carefully guarded, as those who are too trusting can easily fall victim to manipulation and deceit. The law also stresses the importance of maintaining one's autonomy, rather than relying too heavily on the support of others. This can be achieved by keeping a backup plan, avoiding revealing too much information, and remaining aware of one's own interests at all times. By taking these steps, one can protect themselves from potential threats and remain in control of their own power. Ultimately, the message of Chapter 2 is that in a world filled with power struggles, it is important to be cautious and aware of one's surroundings, rather than blindly trusting others. By being mindful of the motives of those around you, you can maintain your own power and autonomy, and avoid becoming a victim of manipulation and deceit. Chapter 3 of The 48 Laws of Power is titled, Conceal Your Intentions. In this chapter, the author, Robert Greene, outlines the importance of hiding one's true intentions and goals in order to gain an advantage in power dynamics. He argues that by concealing one's intentions, one can avoid arousing suspicion and resentment, and instead, manipulate situations to their advantage. In the first part of Chapter 3, the author provides examples from history and politics to demonstrate the importance of concealing one's intentions. He explains that individuals and groups who openly declare their goals and ambitions often invite opposition and resistance, whereas those who keep their true motives hidden are more likely to succeed. The second part of Chapter 3 focuses on the methods for concealing one's intentions. Greene suggests using indirect and ambiguous communication, keeping a low profile, and avoiding actions that might reveal one's true goals. He also stresses the importance of adapting one's behavior to the circumstances and not acting impulsively. In the final part of Chapter 3, the author warns against the dangers of over-concealing one's intentions. He argues that hiding one's intentions to such an extent that they become difficult to decipher can lead to confusion and mistrust, and can ultimately backfire. In summary, Chapter 3 of the 48 Laws of Power stresses the importance of concealing one's intentions in order to gain an advantage in power dynamics, while warning against the dangers of over-concealing. The fourth chapter of the 48 Laws of Power is called Despise the Free Lunch. In this chapter, the author Robert Greene emphasizes the importance of not accepting gifts, favors, or opportunities that seem too good to be true, as they often come with hidden strings attached. The author introduces the law by pointing out that people often believe that they can gain something without paying a price. However, such gifts often come with a hidden cost, whether in the form of obligations, debt, or future manipulation. The author highlights the dangers of accepting free things and warns that people who receive gifts, favors, or opportunities for free will often find themselves beholden to the giver, who will use this leverage to control and manipulate them in the future. This can have disastrous consequences, as the recipient will lose their independence and autonomy. The author suggests that people should always pay their own way and never accept anything for free. By doing so, they maintain their power and independence, and avoid becoming beholden to anyone else. The chapter concludes with the warning that people who are too eager to take advantage of free opportunities will eventually find themselves beholden to someone else and will lose their power as a result. Chapter 5 of the 48 Laws of Power focuses on the law of reputation. This law states that it's essential to have a good reputation, as people will judge you based on what they've heard about you, whether it's true or false. Robert Greene, the author, notes that a good reputation is like a valuable asset, and one should do everything in their power to protect it. He stresses that once a bad reputation is earned, it's extremely hard to change people's perception of you. The chapter is divided into 3 parts, each covering different aspects of the law of reputation, building a reputation. In this part, the author explains that building a good reputation is not something that happens overnight, but requires consistent effort over time. He advises that one should focus on doing good work, acting ethically, and avoiding negative publicity to build a positive image. Protecting your reputation. In this part, the author provides advice on how to protect one's reputation. He notes that people are quick to judge and are always looking for the smallest mistake or weakness to exploit. He emphasizes the importance of being aware of one's actions and avoiding negative behavior, repairing a damaged reputation. In this part, the author acknowledges that despite one's best efforts, there are times when a person's reputation may become tarnished. He provides tips on how to repair a damaged reputation, including acknowledging mistakes, asking for forgiveness, and changing one's behavior to demonstrate a commitment to improving. The main takeaway from this chapter is that reputation is a valuable asset that should be protected at all times. A good reputation opens doors, while a bad reputation closes them, so it's essential to act with integrity and to be mindful of how one's actions may impact their reputation. Chapter 6 of The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is about court attention at all costs. This law highlights the importance of attracting attention, especially in situations where power and influence are at stake. In this chapter, the author provides several techniques for getting people to pay attention to you. Make yourself remarkable. In this part, the author talks about the importance of being different, standing out, and creating a lasting impression in the minds of others. The author advises that one way to achieve this is to cultivate a unique personal style and to be consistent in displaying it. Exploit the power of mystery. The author suggests that by shrouding yourself in mystery, you can create an aura of intrigue that will make others want to pay attention to you. He also points out that people are naturally drawn to the unknown and that this can be used to your advantage. Use drama to create attention. According to the author, one way to court attention is to create a dramatic event or situation that people can't ignore. He suggests that by doing this, you can position yourself as a central figure in the eyes of others and increase your power and influence. The author cautions that drama should be used judiciously and with caution, as too much of it can also have a negative impact. Chapter 7 of The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is titled, Get Others to Do the Work for You, but Always Take the Credit. This chapter focuses on the idea of leveraging the work and skills of others in order to advance one's own position. The law is about using people's talents, energies, and resources for one's own gain. Delegating work. The first part of this chapter discusses the importance of delegation in achieving success. Green argues that it's not possible for one person to do everything themselves, so it's essential to delegate tasks to others. When delegating work, it's important to choose the right people and give them clear instructions on what they're supposed to do. The person delegating the work must ensure that the people they delegate to are motivated, have the right skills, and are aware of the desired outcome. Taking the credit. The second part of this chapter highlights the importance of taking the credit for the work of others. According to Green, taking credit for the work of others is a way of asserting dominance and demonstrating power. It's important to be strategic in taking credit, so as not to undermine the motivation of those who did the work. The key is to strike a balance between taking credit and giving recognition to others, so as to maintain good relationships with those who did the work. Maintaining control. The final part of this chapter emphasizes the importance of maintaining control in delegating work. The person delegating the work must maintain a position of authority and be able to make changes if necessary. It's important to be able to assess the work done by others and make necessary changes in order to achieve the desired outcome. Maintaining control is essential for ensuring that the work is done properly and that the desired results are achieved. In conclusion, Chapter 7 of the 48 Laws of Power is about leveraging the work and skills of others to achieve one's goals. Delegating work, taking credit, and maintaining control are the key components of this law. Successful individuals use these strategies to advance their careers and attain power and influence. Chapter 8 of the 48 Laws of Power is about Law 8, court attention at all costs. This chapter teaches that to achieve power, one must be the center of attention and make sure that others are aware of their presence and actions. According to the author, Robert Greene, this can be achieved by creating a compelling and attractive persona, making bold statements and actions, and by surrounding oneself with mystique and drama. The first part of this chapter stresses the importance of creating an image that captivates others, by appearing confident and having a magnetic presence. It highlights the idea that people are naturally drawn to those who have an aura of authority and influence, and that the right image can make all the difference in getting attention and respect. The second part of the chapter focuses on the need to create a stir and make bold moves, in order to capture the attention of others. It emphasizes that in order to stand out in a crowded world, one must be willing to take risks and not be afraid to make a statement. The author also explains that being provocative, even controversial, can be a good way to grab attention, as long as it's done with intelligence and strategy. The final part of the chapter discusses the importance of mystery and mystique in gaining attention. The author explains that by keeping others guessing, one can maintain their allure and continue to capture their attention. He advises that it is necessary to be strategic in what information is shared, and to always leave some things to the imagination, in order to keep the attention of others. In conclusion, Chapter 8 of the 48 Laws of Power teaches that to achieve power, one must court attention at all costs. It emphasizes the importance of creating an image that captivates others, making bold moves, and maintaining mystery and mystique. By following these principles, one can ensure that they are always in the spotlight, and that others are aware of their presence and actions. Chapter 9 of the 48 Laws of Power is titled, Win Through Your Actions, Never Through Argument. This chapter discusses the importance of avoiding verbal arguments and instead relying on one's actions to achieve power. The author, Robert Greene, argues that verbal arguments are rarely productive and often only serve to escalate conflicts. Additionally, he states that people are often more impressed by actions than words, and that taking decisive action is a more effective way to demonstrate one's power and influence. The author discusses the dangers of relying on arguments to achieve one's goals. He notes that arguments often lead to confrontations and can damage relationships, making it harder to achieve one's goals in the future. The author also argues that people are more likely to remember and respect those who take decisive action rather than those who engage in argument. The author provides tips on how to use actions to achieve power. He suggests that one should be willing to take risks and make bold moves in order to demonstrate their power and influence. He also advises that one should be strategic in their actions, choosing to make moves that will have the greatest impact and demonstrate one's power most effectively. The author explores the different ways in which one can use actions to achieve power. He suggests that one can use their actions to demonstrate their skill, creativity, and intelligence, and to show others that they are capable of making things happen. The author also notes that taking action is a way to demonstrate one's courage and determination, and to inspire others to follow one's lead. In conclusion, Chapter 9 of The 48 Laws of Power highlights the importance of relying on actions rather than arguments to achieve power and influence. The author argues that actions are a more effective way to demonstrate one's power and that one should be willing to take risks and make bold moves in order to achieve their goals. Chapter 10 of The 48 Laws of Power focuses on the law of never appear too perfect. This law states that no one should appear to be too perfect, as people will either fear or envy them. To maintain power, it's essential to show some flaws or weaknesses, and to avoid being too good at everything. This way, others will be more inclined to trust and relate to you, as well as be more willing to help you. In this chapter, author Robert Greene stresses the importance of not being too perfect in public, as it makes one vulnerable to attack, both from within and without. He also highlights the fact that people are naturally attracted to imperfection, and that those who appear too perfect are often seen as unattainable or even fake. One key point in this chapter is the idea of calculated imperfection. This refers to the concept of strategically revealing weaknesses or flaws in order to make oneself more relatable and approachable. This can help build trust with others and make them more willing to work with or support you. Another important idea in this chapter is the concept of the imperfection shield. This refers to the idea of using one's imperfections as a form of defense against attack. By showing that one is not perfect, it makes it harder for others to use that against you in a power struggle. In conclusion, Chapter 10 of The 48 Laws of Power emphasizes the importance of avoiding the appearance of perfection in order to maintain power. It highlights the benefits of showing some imperfections, such as building trust and making oneself more approachable, and encourages the use of calculated imperfection and the imperfection shield as effective tools for maintaining power and avoiding attack. Chapter 11 of The 48 Laws of Power is entitled Learn to Keep People Dependent on You. In this chapter, the author, Robert Greene, explains the importance of making others dependent on you in order to maintain power and control. Encourage dependence. The first part of the chapter focuses on the importance of encouraging others to become dependent on you. This can be done through providing them with help, advice, and support in their endeavors. By doing so, you establish yourself as a trusted figure in their life, which creates an emotional attachment to you. Keep control. In the second part of the chapter, Greene explains that it is important to keep control over the situation by establishing clear boundaries. This can be done through setting expectations for behavior, providing rules and guidelines, and keeping an eye on the situation to ensure that it stays in your control. Discourage independence. The final part of the chapter focuses on the importance of discouraging independence in others. This can be done by limiting their options, making them feel uncertain, and restricting their access to information. By doing so, you maintain control over the situation and keep people dependent on you. Overall, this chapter of The 48 Laws of Power emphasizes the importance of making others dependent on you in order to maintain power and control in any situation. By providing support, setting boundaries, and restricting independence, you are able to keep control and stay in a position of power. Chapter 12 of The 48 Laws of Power is about Too Soon Do They Fly Up, which focuses on the idea of keeping one's enemies close. The chapter stresses the importance of keeping potential adversaries under control and understanding their movements, rather than eliminating them. By doing so, you can keep a close watch on them and take the appropriate steps if they attempt to betray you. The author, Robert Greene, asserts that those who eliminate their enemies completely often miss out on important information, resources, and opportunities that could be valuable to them. By keeping your enemies close, you can manipulate them and gain an advantage over them. In this chapter, Green highlights the power of keeping secrets and how secrets can be used as a tool to gain leverage over your enemies. He stresses the importance of maintaining secrecy and keeping your thoughts and intentions hidden from others. This allows you to keep your enemies guessing and maintain a level of unpredictability. Green also explains the importance of knowing when to act, and the importance of timing in any power move. He argues that by carefully observing and understanding the motivations and weaknesses of your enemies, you can know when the right moment is to make your move. In conclusion, the key takeaway from this chapter is that by keeping your enemies close and maintaining a level of control over them, you can gain a strategic advantage over them and stay ahead of the game. By carefully observing and understanding your enemies, you can anticipate their moves and be in a better position to outmaneuver them. Chapter 13 of The 48 Laws of Power is titled Concentrate Your Forces. This law focuses on the importance of utilizing all of one's resources to maximize their power and influence. The law states that instead of spreading oneself too thin, one should focus their efforts on a specific area or task, so as to achieve greater results. This allows for the efficient use of resources and greater control over the situation. In the chapter, author Robert Greene explains that to apply this law, one should identify the most important aspect of their situation and concentrate their resources on it. This means prioritizing tasks and delegating responsibilities to others. He also warns against becoming too fixated on a single aspect, as it can lead to a blind spot and the overlooking of other important factors. Another key aspect of this law is the power of surprise. By focusing one's resources on a single task, they are able to achieve results much more quickly and efficiently, catching their opponents off guard. This allows for a strategic advantage and can lead to greater power and influence. In conclusion, the chapter emphasizes the importance of concentrating one's resources in order to achieve greater power and influence. By focusing on a single task and utilizing all of one's resources, one is able to achieve results more quickly and efficiently, gaining a strategic advantage and increasing their control over the situation. Chapter 14 of The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is titled Pose as a Friend, Work as a Spy. In this chapter, the author emphasizes the importance of gathering information and maintaining a low profile in order to achieve success. The law suggests that one should pretend to be a friend to those around them in order to gain their trust and gather information. However, one should never reveal their true intentions or motives, as this could compromise their position. The law of pose as a friend, work as a spy, is based on the principle of gathering information. One should maintain a low profile and pretend to be friendly to those around them in order to gain their trust and gather information. The author argues that information is power and that gathering information is crucial to success. By posing as a friend and working as a spy, one can gain access to valuable information that can be used to gain an advantage over others. The author stresses the importance of maintaining a low profile and not revealing one's true intentions. This requires being aware of one's surroundings, avoiding drawing attention to oneself, and being cautious about who one reveals their true motives to. In this way, one can gather information and maintain a position of power without putting themselves at risk. Chapter 15 of The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene focuses on the law of forging alliances. This law states that one should avoid enemies and instead form alliances with those who can be useful. The following are the 3 key points summarized from the chapter. 1. The power of alliances. Forming alliances can provide numerous benefits such as access to resources, protection, and support. Alliances can be formed with individuals, organizations, or even nations. 2. Types of alliances. There are 2 main types of alliances, formal and informal. Formal alliances are structured agreements between parties, while informal alliances are more casual relationships. Both types have their advantages and disadvantages, and one should choose the right type based on their goals. Point 3. Maintaining alliances. maintaining alliances is just as important as forming them. This involves communication, trust, and mutual respect. One should avoid actions that could damage the alliance, such as breaking promises or acting in a self-serving manner. Additionally, one should be prepared to make sacrifices if necessary to keep the alliance strong. In conclusion, the chapter emphasizes the importance of forming alliances as a means to attain power and success. The key to success is to form the right type of alliance and maintain it through good communication, trust, and mutual respect. Chapter 16 of The 48 Laws of Power is titled, Crush Your Enemy Totally. In this chapter, author Robert Greene discusses the importance of completely defeating one's enemy in order to gain lasting power. He argues that if an enemy is not completely destroyed, they will be able to plot revenge and eventually reclaim power. The first part of the chapter emphasizes the need for decisive and complete victory. Greene warns against sparing an enemy or leaving them with any means to strike back, and encourages the reader to use all their power and resources to defeat their enemies and remove any potential threats. The second part of the chapter discusses the importance of demoralizing and destroying the enemy's spirit. Greene suggests using psychological tactics such as spreading rumors, playing mind games, and undermining the enemy's confidence to crush their spirit and eliminate their ability to resist. The final part of the chapter focuses on the aftermath of the defeat and the importance of securing one's position. Greene encourages the reader to take steps to ensure the enemy is completely destroyed and cannot rise again, such as removing their power base, taking control of their assets, and establishing a dominant presence in the territory they once controlled. The takeaway from this chapter is that in order to achieve lasting power, it is necessary to completely defeat one's enemy and eliminate any potential threats. This requires decisive action, psychological tactics, and securing one's position after the defeat. Chapter 17 of The 48 Laws of Power is titled, Do Not Let Parents, Friends, or Lovers Lead You Astray. In this chapter, author Robert Greene warns against the dangers of being led astray by those close to you, who may hold you back or harm your interests. Be cautious of those who hold you back. Parents, friends, and lovers can hold you back and prevent you from achieving your goals. They may have different priorities and values and may not understand your ambitions. Protect your interests. It's important to prioritize your own interests, rather than blindly following those of others. When someone close to you tries to discourage you or steer you in a different direction, it's crucial to step back and assess the situation. Avoid being manipulated. Additionally, it's important to be aware of those who may try to manipulate you for their own gain. People who are close to you can use emotional leverage to sway you in a direction that is not in your best interest. Overall, the main takeaway from this chapter is to be cautious of those closest to you, as they may hold you back or manipulate you. It's important to protect your own interests and stay true to your goals and values, even if it means cutting ties with those who hold you back. Chapter 18 of The 48 Laws of Power, Do Not Build Fortresses to Protect Yourself. Isolation is dangerous, highlights the dangers of becoming isolated and building figurative fortresses to protect oneself. 1. The dangers of isolation. According to the author, Robert Greene, isolation leads to a loss of power and control. When a person becomes isolated, they lose touch with the world and the opportunities and information it provides. This can result in poor decision-making, lack of influence, and becoming vulnerable to attack. Point 2. The importance of relationships. Relationships and networks are crucial in gaining and maintaining power. By building relationships with others, a person can gather information, form alliances, and gain support. The author suggests that those who isolate themselves risk losing the benefits of these relationships, making them vulnerable to the actions of their enemies. 3. The need for balance. While it may be tempting to build fortresses and isolate oneself, the author argues that this is a dangerous path. Instead, the author suggests striking a balance between protecting oneself and being connected to the world. A person should strive to maintain relationships and networks, but also be mindful of potential threats and take measures to protect themselves. In Chapter 19 of The 48 Laws of Power, the author, Robert Greene, explores the law, do not go past the mark you aimed for. In Victory, learn when to stop. The law suggests that one should not overreach in their pursuits and that success should be measured in terms of attainable goals, rather than unrealistic ones. By setting attainable goals and stopping when they are reached, one can avoid the consequences of overreaching, such as depletion of resources, loss of allies, and self-destruction. Greene uses several historical examples to illustrate the importance of this law. For example, he cites the case of Alexander the Great, who, in his pursuit of conquest, overreached and eventually lost the support of his army. This ultimately led to his downfall. Similarly, Greene describes the case of Napoleon Bonaparte, who, in his quest for power, overreached and ultimately suffered defeat. Greene also highlights the importance of knowing when to stop and reflect on one's accomplishments. He suggests that individuals should celebrate their successes and take time to reflect on their achievements, rather than constantly pushing themselves to reach new heights. By doing this, they can avoid the consequences of overreaching, such as burnout and exhaustion, and preserve their energy for future pursuits. In conclusion, the law, do not go past the mark you aimed for. In Victory, learn when to stop, suggests that individuals should set attainable goals, stop when they are reached, and take time to reflect on their achievements. By doing so, they can avoid the consequences of overreaching and preserve their energy for future pursuits. Chapter 20 of The 48 Laws of Power is titled, Do Not Commit to Anyone. This law discusses the importance of maintaining independence and avoiding being tied down by commitments. The author explains that by committing to others, one risks becoming vulnerable and exposed to manipulation. The chapter highlights the importance of maintaining control over one's own decisions, as well as being flexible and adaptable to changing circumstances. The author advises against making promises or committing to anything, unless it is essential and the rewards far outweigh the risks. To summarize, the key takeaway from this chapter is that one should avoid making commitments unless necessary and strive to maintain independence in order to retain control and avoid being manipulated by others. Chapter 21 of The 48 Laws of Power is titled, Do Not Commit to Anyone. In this chapter, the author argues that committing to anyone or anything, whether it be a person, a cause, or an organization, can be dangerous for those in positions of power. The first part of this chapter explains that being fully committed to anything can make a person vulnerable to manipulation and control by others. By committing to a cause, a person opens themselves up to the influence of those who share that cause, and by committing to a person risks being controlled by that person. The second part of this chapter discusses the importance of maintaining independence and maintaining a sense of detachment from any particular cause or person. The author suggests that those in positions of power should strive to maintain a sense of detachment and remain neutral, allowing them to make decisions based on their own interests, rather than the interests of others. The final part of this chapter stresses the importance of being able to recognize when someone is trying to manipulate or control you by committing you to a particular cause or person. The author suggests that being aware of these attempts at manipulation and maintaining independence is essential for maintaining power and avoiding the risk of being controlled by others. In conclusion, Chapter 21 of The 48 Laws of Power argues that committing to anyone or anything can be dangerous for those in positions of power, and that maintaining independence and detachment is essential for maintaining power and avoiding manipulation. Chapter 22 of The 48 Laws of Power focuses on the law, do not commit to anyone. The author argues that it is unwise to be completely loyal or committed to any individual or group, as this can limit one's options and potential for power. In order to maintain power and flexibility, one must be able to adapt to changing circumstances and take advantage of new opportunities as they arise. This can be achieved by avoiding making binding commitments and keeping one's options open. The chapter also discusses the importance of balancing relationships with allies and enemies, and avoiding the trap of becoming too emotionally invested in a particular relationship. The chapter emphasizes the importance of maintaining independence and avoiding the pitfalls of being tied down to a particular person or group.
If this video was helpful to you, Please hit the like button and subscribe for more similar content. I'm always looking for ways to improve. Your comments and opinions are important to me, so please leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts on this video.